Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall back again, and today we're going to talk about our good buddy, the Great Unclean One. Now, it is one of my favorite things in Age of Sigmar to take a hero or a monster, typically, a hero monster, um, and find ways to make it kind of do things that maybe it's not exactly intended to do or supposed to do, and do something kind of unexpected and fun with it. Um, the start of this love for me was a long time ago. The story I've probably told a million times of before about the old Bretonnian lord on Pegasus and giving him artifacts and command traits, etc., to turn him into like a combat powerhouse. And ever since then, I've just loved this idea of taking a hero and making them into something that is an interesting tool that maybe wasn't intended to be that way, or taking something that's not that useful and making it actually, fun, interesting, and useful. Now, since the most recent Maggotkin book has released, the Great Unclean One has not been a popular choice. A lot of people kind of have not been happy with it. It was really pretty high pointed initially, although it's now come down several times to a much more reasonable level. And its role in the army is much different than it was in the previous book. And for that reason, I think a lot of people are really kind of disappointed and confused, don't really know how to use it very well. So I thought I would share how I have been kitting out my Great Unclean Ones to help people maybe have some more fun with this and make some good use out of it. I don't know if this is actually going to be a build that is I don't know, like this isn't like a top tables at a GT build. This is making lemons, or making lemonade on a lemons build. So if you like Great Unclean Ones, here's what I've been doing. First of all, I take them with the sword and the flail. So we're going for a maximized melee build with these guys. The bell is really just not that useful anymore. The amount of contagion that it's providing you is just not material and does not. It's just not getting you anything extra in summoning. I've tried to do some builds that really go heavy into summoning, and I just can't ever justify using a Great Unclean One with a bell to supplement that. It just doesn't really do anything. And then as far as the dagger, it's not really giving you the things that you need to make the Great Unclean One better. The spells that he has available to him in this particular book are really not that great. So, or maybe not necessarily not that great. They're not that compatible with what you want to use a Great Unclean One for. The old book, we had a heavy utility Great Unclean One, so you could give him like favored poxes and some other things, and it was great. He was just this guy that was hanging around the middle of the battlefield. He was giving your guys passive buffs and casting spells and all kinds of stuff like that, and it was good, but it was a very different role than what we have now. Now, I typically will make this guy my general to give him a Nurgling infestation. That makes him -1 to hit in melee all the time. That is going to make him much, much more durable. Now, he's already on 18 wounds, 4-up save, 5-up ward, so he's healing D3 in every one of your hero phases because he's a locus of fecundity. And that already is pretty durable. That extra -1 to hit him is definitely helpful in addition to that. The next two things are the weird techie stuff that I like to do that are a little bit out of the box, and people maybe either don't think of it or just don't think it's good. Maybe you want to make different choices. Number one, the artifact that I like to go with is the Vial of Manticore Venom. Now, you may have never heard of this before. This is one of the artifacts out of the core rules. What it does is it gives your hero +1 to wound on one of their melee weapons. That's surprisingly good. It really can make your melee attacks much stronger. Now, the instinct here would be to throw this on the sword, because it's the big scary sword. However, you're going to get more bang for your buck, mathematically, if you throw it on the flail. So that's going to put it on 3s and 2s, and then an all-out attack is going to put that on 2s and 2s. So that's going to give you a lot of really reliable damage coming off of the flail as a result. Number 2 is the spell selection. Once again, going to go with a spell that a lot of people probably don't think about, maybe don't even realize is there anymore. That is Flaming Weapon. So that casts on a 4, so it's almost given that this thing goes off, and your main concern is getting past an unbind, and a lot of times your opponent is going to be more concerned about other spells that you have to cast, and they're not going to really address that. So, what does Flaming Weapon do? It gives you +1 damage on one of that hero's melee weapons. Typically, this is a really overlooked spell, because there's not many wizards that really want to go kick ass, right? Like, it can only target the wizard himself. But when you've got a great Unclean one, you know, he's already a melee hero. Especially now that you don't have the artifact working for you anymore. And I don't know why my brain is blanking on that. Arcane Tome, that one. Now that you can't take a spell with that, it's really a challenge for a lot. Like that use is like, meh, nobody's doing that. So what this does for you is, after these considerations, we've got 4 attacks coming off of the sword, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, rend 2, 4 damage. Your flail is going to be 5 attacks, hit on 3s, wound on 2, rend 1, also 4 damage. So between those two things, you have a pretty high damage output. Then you add on to that you also have your nurgling attacks on your base. Those are really more oriented for just adding more disease. They really don't ever do that much damage on their own. And then in addition to that, he does have his own Monstrous Rampage, which does 4 mortal wounds on a 2+, and unlike Stomp, you can also do that to monsters. So that's really going to give you some additional damage as well. All of that considered, against a 4+ save, your average damage between your actual combat damage, your Monstrous Rampage, and then your effect of disease, on average, with this build, you're going to do about 20 damage per combat against a 4+ save. That's a lot. Like, that is actually a great Unclean one that is going to push somebody's shit in. So, I really love this. You're throwing 9 attacks at 4 damage each. You don't have to connect with a lot of that to actually do a ton of damage to something. So, that's where I'm at with the Great Unclean one. I'm a big fan. I've been running it a lot, and it's stupid and fun. He becomes this big, durable guy that can hit pretty hard. He's an intimidating presence on the battlefield. And people seem to also just kind of not expect him to hit quite as hard as he does, because generally, like, people aren't kitting him out for combat like this, and so they're not doing this kind of damage with him. Also, definitely remember in there that 20 damage is also including an assumption of all-out attack, or something else giving you +1 to hit. And then you can pop that up even a little bit further if you use Finest Hour to get +1 to wound on all of your weapons. So I really love it. It's fun, and the other nice thing about this too is that he is that locus of fecundity, so he's healing D3 to all of your guys near him as well. So it's that nice extra boost. I think that's maybe something that's a little bit overlooked in this army as well. The healing can be really powerful. Anywho, that is just a fun thing that I've been doing, thought I would share. I've been thinking about this on some other things because, you know, new books come out, and I like to sit and noodle around with the other dumb stuff that you can do with your heroes to make something fun. Like, say, the new Cities of Sigmar book, and what you can do with a Marshal on Griffin, or a Steam Tank. And I am working on a video for Steam Tanks, and doing some math and some comparison to see just how close we can get a Steam Tank now to be like what Steam Tanks were in Warhammer Fantasy Battles. But that is a topic for another day. I will talk to you all later.